friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all have been doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator here on YouTube, and I'm on some other platforms. If you check out my links down below, you can follow me there. If you like my vibe, like my content, yeah. And if you are a returning subscriber, hello, it's good to see you back. Today, I am going to be doing a little bit of a book review on Madeline Miller's Circe. So I think this book actually came out in like 2018, and as always, I'm a little late to the game. I am reviewing this in 2023. I came across this book because I'm a part of a local book club, and this was one of the books in the running. I will leave a little thing here if you're interested in joining an online book club where you can go get more information and check it out. Now, it didn't get chosen at the time, but it really caught my attention. I love a villain story. And this book, Circe, is essentially all about the Greek sorceress from the Odyssey. You know, the one that turns men into pigs. And this book is essentially her story, how she got there. Because in a lot of the epics, we find that most of the attention is on the men, right? And when there are women in these stories, typically they are something to be conquered or won, kind of seen more objectively as opposed to the true complexity of the characters, right? Women are objects won in war, or are mothers or brides, or their stories are told not from their own lens, but from being a sister or being a wife or being a mother. A lot of influential figures in the epics are pretty much only spoken of as this was the mother of so-and-so or the daughter of so-and-so. Now, as a witch myself, of course, I'm going to be naturally drawn to any story that features a fellow witch or sorceress in the main part of the narrative. And so I was really, really excited to actually get my hands on this book. And I devoured this easily within a weekend. Now, I will say I did not actually read the physical book. However, the cover is gorgeous. And I do like that I now have a physical copy. So I actually listened to this book as an audiobook. There's an app called Libby. I'll link it down here somewhere. And with the Libby app, you can basically listen to audiobooks or read books essentially for free. It goes through the public library, so I'm not sure how this works for people outside of the United States, but as long as you have a library ID, you can log in to an account with your library ID and essentially borrow audiobooks or books digitally for free. So I actually listened to the audio version of this book, and part of the reason for that is because I did really want to read this, but I've also been super, super busy with work and with the holidays. And so for me, sometimes listening to an audiobook is so much easier because I can listen while I wrap gifts or while I clean or while I drive to work. And also because this is, Greek, I have no idea how to pronounce some of the names of the characters, and that can be a little bit of a struggle for me if I'm trying to read it, more traditionally, where I'm trying to think of how to sound out these names so that way I can remember them. I don't know if any of you have that sort of same neurodivergent aspect as well, but for me, it really helps when I'm trying to get to know a character and remember their name if I can hear how their name is supposed to be pronounced. So that's in part why I used the audiobook version on Libby. I will also say, I am in no way sponsored by the Libby app. They're not paying me to promote this. I just genuinely have really loved using this app, and it's free. So I wanted to tell you guys about it in case you might be interested in that as well. So the book kind of starts off where Circe is coming from her early childhood and being the daughter of the Titan Helios and the daughter of a nymph, and what that sort of experience is like. And I really, really enjoy how Madeline Miller sort of paints the Titans and the gods and how just tangible they really, really feel, even as like a pagan, as someone who's like working with spirits and deities. Like, I feel like she really hit the nail on the head for a lot of the personality aspects and archetypes of these gods and of these titans.
You have a new notification. Do you want to hear it?
No. So the book starts off with her essentially being the daughter of the sun god Helios, and kind of like what that experience was like growing up around titans, around the old gods. Her mother is a nymph, and she kind of faces some challenges early on with her siblings. And I absolutely loved how vile her sister Persephone is depicted in this book. And I really love how, you know, it kind of touches on how both of these women face discrimination and are kind of kept in a cage, but, you know, in different ways. Okay, so I'm editing this video now, and also I would have loved to have more of Percy, her brother, who basically goes and becomes like a Babylonian king and is like doing necromancy and summoning the dead. Like, we don't really get a lot of him after her early childhood. So I would have loved to see more of that personally, but loved the two of them, Persea and Percy. Persephone gets like married off. She later becomes the mother of the Minotaur, and she has this whole saga that is pretty much untouched by a lot of like modern retellings of this story. If I had to pick like a favorite character, of course I love Circe, but I think that her sister Persephone would probably be my other favorite character, although I did really like her brother Aeetes as well. So Circe is also supposed to roughly translate or mean like hawk, and she kind of talks about how Circe like has hawk-like features. Her hair is the color of a hawk, and she doesn't speak like gods, she speaks like a mortal, and that her voice even sounds like a hawk. And a lot of the gods and nymphs find her, you know, very annoying and unfavorable. And then of course, like, events happen to where she gets exiled and she lives on the island Aiaia. And she kind of creates like an Eden or a paradise there. And this is sort of where we have the intersection with like the story of the Odyssey, with Odysseus, who, you know, lands upon her shores and his men get turned into pigs and she takes him as a lover. And if you're familiar with the Odyssey, you probably already know that portion, but Madeline Miller does a really good retelling from Circe's perspective of those events. And I will say that this book would definitely be in my recommended reads, even in 2023, even though this book was published in like, I think 2018. I absolutely love this book. And I think that if you're interested in Greek or Roman mythology, or just mythology period, or if you're into sort of the sorceress or witch archetype, or if you are a practicing witch, I think that you will find yourself really connecting and resonating with the story that Madeline Miller weaves. There are definitely some trigger warnings with this book that I would like to just let you know about in case any of those things might be triggering. Of course, there is some SA that goes on that kind of is really developing the story and the plot and the psyche of Circe and her experience by, you know, being manipulated and SA'd by multiple male figures. And then also just sort of like the daddy issue aspect with her father Helios, and also with some childbirth stuff with her sister Persea. I'm not really sure. But she is there for the birth of the Minotaur, and there's a really gory and brutal scene involving childbirth. So just keep that in mind. And then there's also a really brutal and gory scene involving Prometheus. lots of violence and like graphic detail around that, which that doesn't necessarily bother me. I know it does bother some people. So just know that, you know, if you're currently pregnant or about to give birth, or if you're battling with issues around father-daughter issues, or, you know, violence against women, like some of this book might be a little triggering. And some of this book did also trigger me as well. But like in a good way, like not in a bad way, in a very, very good way. This book honestly had me like turning every single page, metaphorically, of course, because I listened to the audiobook, but like I was glued to this book. And I do read a fair amount, okay? And so when a book really grasps my attention like that, like to me, that's saying something. I would also say that anyone who considers themselves a feminist is really going to get a lot out of this book. I also really enjoyed how pharmakeia, or witchcraft, is woven into this story, and how even the gods and the old gods, the Titans, have a fear of witches. And I love how mortals and nymphs and gods and Titans are depicted in this book. It's just fantastic. I found it to be super relatable, like as a witch in the modern era, as a woman healing and growing up through SA and daddy issues and things around fertility. Like this book resonated with me so much. And I loved listening to the audiobook. Like the actress who narrated, the voice actress who narrated the audiobook was just phenomenal. And I highly recommend that if you check this book out, that you also check out the audiobook. I want to say that I paid like maybe $20 or so on Amazon for this. So financially, like I would say it's a fairly accessible book. And then also because I listened to like the audiobook, I feel like the names were more accessible because again, I was able to actually hear how they were pronounced. And I think if I was reading the book, that might kind of stump me a little bit or make my eyes glaze over, if I'm being honest, a little bit, because like that's something that we struggle with, being a little bit dyslexic, is like trying to read foreign like Greek names.
I'm not the one.
Overall, I would probably give this book honestly like a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I subtract 1 point that it's not a 10 out of 10, which really like the book is a 10 out of 10. But like in the beginning, Circe is kind of a little bit of a pick-me, and I found myself a little bit annoyed at her. Like it's like she's constantly complaining and whining about how hard things are for her and about how ugly she is. And it's a little painful the first few chapters, but she really grows into that power and steps out of the shadow of her father, quite literally, as he's the sun, and steps out of the shadow of the other nymphs and her sisters and finds her own sovereignty. And I found that story to be really, really powerful. Part of what led me to read this book was not only the fact that it was selected as a book club choice, but also as I am in my second year of the RTA and I'm walking the path of the votary and I'm studying the white goddess, like to me, Circe falls under that archetype, right? Where we have like the great goddess who's split into the black and white goddess, or the light half of the year, the dark half of the year, the mother, the daughter. And to me, Circe very much embodies that white goddess sort of archetype, which is something that I'm currently really studying, mostly with, you know, sort of the Deva with Aradia. And I've made some content here on my channel already about that. You can probably expect to see more, but Circe was a really great addition to some of my studies in the Red Thread Academy, which is a traditional witchcraft online academy. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. Go check it out. And also the book is like visually stunning. If you read this book, definitely let me know what you think of it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this book and about Circe's journey. Loved it. And I'm also really excited to check out some of Madeline Miller's other work. I've heard that The Song of Achilles apparently is like one of Madeline Miller's most famous works. So I think that's probably the book I want to check out next. I'm currently reading Water Witchcraft by Anwen, and I'm also looking to read Krampus and the Yule Lords by Brom. And y'all know I love Brom. Like, I absolutely loved Slewfoot. So now with the Libby app, I have to wait, I guess, 6 weeks because I guess I was too slow to borrow Brom on the app. And so I'm like in a queue right now to read that. So I'll probably be reading Krampus and the Yule Lords, I guess, in January. Which kind of sucks, but also like I'm willing to wait because I really do want to listen to the audio version because again, I'm just so busy right now. It's hard to find time to like actually be able to sit down and read. Though I love that, it's just things are crazy and busy, and listening to an audiobook just really helps me with keeping up on my reading while also keeping up on my day-to-day mundane life, right? Like listening to it as you go to work or cleaning or whatever. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let me know what you think of this video, and if you would like me to review more books, if you have any book suggestions for me to read and review, please let me know because I genuinely really enjoy doing book reviews. And until next time, I hope that you all stay well and are well, and blessed be, and I will see you in hell. Okay? Bye.